Hello. Hello. I think we should be back to our reality now.
Good afternoon, Professor. Good afternoon.
Hello, สวัสดีครับ สวัสดีครับ Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Can you see me?
Afternoon,ครับ.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. You can
Yes,
see
Professor.
me because I can't see myself. Okay. I'll see me now. I'll see myself. So are you all the first year student or second year students? You are in the same batch, right? The same group.
Yes, Professor. We are the first
Which year are you? Which year are you? First year, second semester, or first year, first semester?
This is the third one, Professor.
Third one.
Yes.
The third one.
Semester, right?
The third semester. And how many more semesters to go for your coursework?
You mean how many courses?
How many more semesters to go for your coursework?
And this is the last semester.
Yes.
For your coursework.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, this is the last semester for your coursework, and then you have to do a qualifying exam.
Yes.
Yes.
And after that, you will have got to begin writing a dissertation proposal, defend it, and the real thing. So probably 2 more years to go.
Yes.
2 more years to go. I don't know. 2 more years to go, probably. I got my Ph.D. 20 years ago. So time sure flies. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor.
Yes,
I began my PhD study in 1997.
97.
1997, and I finished the dissertation, defended everything, 2002. It took me 5 years for the PhD study. So that was 2002 when I got my PhD. And then it's been 20 years now. Believe it or not, it's been 20 years now. So time sure flies. So hang in there. You just keep working and then you get it done, and then you go on to have a life. Because as a PhD student, you don't have a life. You are not supposed to be happy as a PhD student, okay?
Yes.
You have to suffer. Yeah, you have to suffer. You have to feel miserable. In fact, you are not allowed to smile. You have to cry throughout the years.
Yes.
But you still smile, so that means you are happy. So shall we start, or
Professor, let me say something before we start, please.
okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Our
Good afternoon.
Yes, our respected dean, invited speaker, and all PhD students, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the webinar Global Englishes, What Really Matters, by our invited speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Saksit Saengboon from School of Language and Communication, National Institute of Development Administration, or NIDA, and organized by English Language Program, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. And okay, in the morning session, our invited speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Saksit Saengboon, okay, have talked about variety of English, global Englishes, world Englishes, English as a lingua franca or ELT. Also, he explained different models such as 3 cycles model proposed by Professor Kashu, okay, Mabuk's models, Schneider models, and also he explained and give more clarification about English in Europe and Asia, English as a lingua franca. Yes, and now it seems that everyone looks okay, very ready and energetic to join the afternoon session. Yes, so now may I invite our invited speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Saksit Saengboon, to commence the session, please, Professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind introduction. One more time, okay. For our friends from Myanmar, in case you are not aware of the existence of NIDA, the National Institute of Development Administration, it is a very small school. It is a very small school in the suburbs of Bangkok, and it is a postgraduate only institution, okay? So for those of you who don't know what NIDA is, you remember this is a small school in the suburbs of Bangkok. It is a postgraduate only institution. That's it, okay? And I have been part of that for 31 years now, and then they are more than ready to kick me out. So, you know, that's why I'm here. Okay, let me pick up where I left off. Before the lunch break, I asked you a question, an important question about the distinction between Word Englishes and Global and ELF. This slide that you are seeing now, that I'm showing now, would give you finer details about the distinction between Word Englishes and ELF. Okay, why don't you spend a minute or two scanning the information in these two big boxes, okay? As you can see, okay, as you can see in the left box, these are titles for published research articles in the journal called Word Englishes and English as a Journal of English as a Lingua Franca. The left box contains research titles. If you take a look from the first one down, contextual variation and Hong Kong English. Now you see the name of the country or the territory before the word English. Contextual variation and Hong Kong English. Number 2, English naming and code mixing in Thai mass media. You see the nationality Thai there. Teachers' attitudes towards Korean English. Once again, a variety of English. English in Brunei, another variety of English. The ownership of English in Taiwan. Attitudes towards Englishes in India. Gender and the ownership of English in South Africa. Another territory. The grammar of Brunei English. Linguistic insecurity and the linguistic ownership of English among Singaporean Chinese. What these titles have in common is that you will get to see a word that indicates a country of origin or a territory. So this is, here we are talking about varieties of English. This is Word Englishes, okay? This is Word Englishes. Whereas when you take a look at the right box, you will see that there is no mention of any country or territory. Let's take a look at the first one, English as a lingua franca and linguistic diversity. English as a lingua franca, the challenge for language testing, intelligibility in spoken ELF, the practice of ELF couples and automatic code switching, expressibility in ELF communication, identification of a dominant vocabulary in ELF interactions, disagreement practices in ELF academic group discussion, verbal, non-verbal, and interactional strategies. And the last one, identification of a dominant vocabulary in ELF. I think this is a repetition. Okay, now you will see that in the left box, we are talking about uniqueness of varieties of English used in different localities. Whereas when we look at the right box, we talk about commonalities, what these research titles have in common. What you get to see now is the cover of one of the major journals in World Englishes called World Englishes, Journal of the International Association for World Englishes. This is a special issue, all right? And then you also have another new kid in the block here. It is, the title is Journal of English as a Lingua Franca. So this is just to support what I said before the break, that World Englishes and English as a Lingua Franca are not the same. They focus on different things. They are different kinds of animals, so to speak. Okay. Is it clear to you now? Is this clear to you? I think this is very clear. That's why when we talk about ELF, we never talk about a variety of English, because there is no native speaker of ELF and there is no established speech community of ELF. But whenever you talk about World Englishes, you can readily identify native speakers of that particular kind of English, that particular variety of English. You can readily identify a speech community of that variety of English. I think this is very simple and straightforward.
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Now, I hope you are in good shape now as far as World Englishes and ELF are concerned. Thank you. No question yet. Okay. Yeah, you want to say something? Someone wants to say something. I don't know. Okay, let me move on. Two different paradigms. The word paradigm is such a big word, right? But when you do social sciences, especially when you do World Englishes and Global Englishes and ELF, you really need to think about this superordinate term or overarching term, paradigm. A paradigm means a way of looking at things, okay? A paradigm is a way of looking at things. And once in a while, maybe once in a long while, new knowledge, new concepts, new theories are introduced, and that would lead you to a new way of looking at things. So you end up with a paradigm. Here we are talking about the two different paradigms, World Englishes and English as a Lingua Franca. I think this is a very nice encapsulation of what I have said so far. World Englishes focuses on supposed national or regional English varieties, whereas ELF, the focus is on real-world English communication in and across the three so-calls, but focusing on the expanding so-called. Okay, so that's why, if you can recall, in the morning, in the very first hour of my lecture this morning, I said instead of referring to Thai English, we better talk about ELF. English as a ELF correct. Thai English as ELF with the characteristic of Thai English with the characteristic of ELF. Okay, so that is the idea, right? When we talk about World Englishes, we talk about the codification of regularities in linguistic form to identify one or more English varieties. Codification means you put it in writing. For example, you have a dictionary for example, Australian English, you have a dictionary for Australian English, for example. Whereas ELF does not aim to codify regularities in linguistic form to identify one or more English varieties. In fact, ELF cannot codify any regularities because any ELF gathering or meeting is always dynamic and it changes all the time. So it is hard to find some fixed regularities in linguistic forms and patterns. That's why it is impossible to codify anything. When we talk about word Englishes, we pay attention to the distinct linguistic regularities of each word Englishes variety as an alternative to fixed monolithic correctness in standard English ideology. The word ideology is, again, another big word in the social sciences, right? Ideology refers to a system of beliefs and practice and values, right? So when we talk about standard English, that is also considered an ideology from the social sciences point of view, right? Word Englishes prioritizes that, but ELF, the correctness in communication does not reside in surface linguistic features themselves. So in other words, the concept of the standard English ideology has no room, has no place in ELF. When we talk about word Englishes, we end up talking about the representation of a national or regional solidarity and social group identities. For example, I am Singaporean and I'm proud to speak Singaporean English. I am Indian and I'm proud to speak Indian English. Whereas ELF is the use of accommodation, ELF emphasizes the use of accommodation for the solidarity of a particular instance. Accommodation refers to communication strategies to help members of the group to be able to understand each other. Okay, so that is something that you need to think about. And underneath the table, you have this important statement. For many Asians, ELF theories are likely to be the only way to conceptualize the legitimacy of their English. So in other words, what Ishikawa is saying here is that instead of if we take into consideration the case of Thailand, English in Thailand, instead of searching for or trying to search for Thai English, we better think about ELF, with Thai characteristics. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Any questions at all? Any concerns that you may have here? I hope this is clearer to you. Okay. This is very important. This is very important. These two slides is very important. Okay. Now let me see. What is this? I don't remember all these slides. Why am I showing this? Word Englishes. You see all those flags representing different varieties of English, Canadian English, and what Japanese English and British English and whatever English that is. English as a lingua franca. You see, no more flags representing distinct countries, but rather we pay attention to the message, encoding, decoding, interpretation, decoding, encoding, and feedback message. In other words, we are talking about modes of communication and means of communication. Okay. When we talk about word Englishes, we pay attention to the relationship between language and community. Nice, right? Nice and easy. Relationship between language and community. That's why we can talk about identity construction. Before you build your identity, construct your identity, you have got to belong to a community. All right. But when we talk about ELF, we pay attention to the relationship between language and communication, not community. Why? Because there is no fixed community or permanent community for you to rely on when we talk about ELF. Simple and straightforward. Any questions? Any remarks? Okay. Yes.
Okay. Sorry for not being able to connect my camera. I'm trying to fix
Oh.
this. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I have one question. Can this happen? Okay. For example, okay, I don't know if it's true, but I would like to raise my question. Okay, for example, Malaysian English. Okay, people, okay, educated people speak English in Malaysia, and if we have Malaysian English and country bordering Malaysia like Thailand, okay, especially the provinces along the border like Pattani, Yala, Narathiwat, okay. Can the Thai local people there are affected by Malaysian English, and then one day they speak English or use English in the Malaysian way because they are near to Malaysian English and have the influence from the Malaysian English? Can this happen, Professor?
Geographical locations could affect how the communication behavior of people for sure. I don't think I can give you a ready answer until I have more information about the frequency and the quality of English interaction between those people in the deep south of Thailand, bordering Malaysia, and Malaysian people. So you have to give me more information about the nature and the quality, as well as the frequency of contact between and among those people. But for sure, geographical location could be a determining or deciding factor, yes. Because somehow, for some reason, I think this happens all the time, right? With dialects, local dialects, right? If you live, your community is closer to whatever community, chances are, and you have a lot of interaction with each other, chances are that there is linguistic influence, cross-linguistic influence, right? Both ways. So the answer is yes, to a large extent, but whether those Thai people in the deep south would one day end up establishing a Malaysian version of English among themselves, I don't know, because we need more information. I mean, hard data before I commit to any kind of answer to you. I hope this is all I can say.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Professor.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether I have answered your question or not, but I don't know, because people in the deep south, it depends though. I mean, if those people, especially younger generations, those living in the deep south and they are relatively young, right? They may be exposed to a lot of American English through mass media. You know what I mean? So
Right.
if they are more frequently exposed to the mass media, where they get to hear a lot more American English, they might be influenced more by American English than Malaysian English. You see,
Right.
for example, so I with no information or empirical evidence, I don't think I should be in a position to give you a very good answer here. Sorry.
Okay, my question has been answered, Professor.
Okay.
I'm curious about this point because the people in the south over there, they are far away from Bangkok, where the English is spoken by dominant or educated people. But there they are near people in Malaysia, and the status of English is clear in Malaysia, and people there they speak better English than those in
Yes,
Thai
yes,
people
they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And this used to be the case in the past, but at the present time, I don't know whether this is still influential or not, because like I said, the mass media, is every nook and cranny, is ubiquitous. I mean, everywhere you go now, I mean, you have the internet, all right? And especially younger generations, they are very good at technology here. So they can avail themselves to those mass media full of American influence, including American English. So I don't know whether these days, when you talk about, what you just said, perhaps it may be American English rather than Malaysian English. I don't know. So we have to do research on this. Well, thank you. That's a very good question, though. A very good point.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor.
Yeah, so yes, let me move on. Were Englishes and English as a lingua franca, why am I? Oh, the same slide like at the beginning here. Let me see. Global Englishes, okay? Global Englishes explores the spread of English beyond its original mother tongue settings, problematizes standard English ideology in the context of the global expansion of English. I think point number 2 is very important, especially when you want to find out why we need to talk about global English. Global Englishes, where we already have word Englishes. I think this is one of the reasons, because we need the standard English ideology in contemporary society needs to be problematized. In other words, we need to think critically about, this ideology of standard English, whether it is still relevant, whether it should be the only standard to comply with. Now, this is something that we need to give answer to through research. I mean, you cannot rely on your common sense. You need to conduct research to find this out. Global Englishes is interested in the ways in which the resulting Englishes develop in their own right as expression of their new users' identities. One obvious example you can see here is that, I don't know whether you have heard of the term contact literature. Contact literature. Contact literature, are you familiar with the term contact literature? Yes or no? You can just say yes or no. Have you heard of the term contact literature? Yes or no?
No, Professor.
No, okay. Okay, let me give you a very quick definition. When we talk about contact literature, as opposed to canonical literature, when we talk about contact literature, we talk about English literature written by non-native speakers of English. For example, if you go to any big bookstores in Bangkok or in other big cities like Kinokuniya, the novel section, you get to see a lot of novels written by Indian authors, all right, Indian authors, and that is called contact literature. I think Thai writers who write in English are, for example, Kun Pongpon Adireksaan. He himself grew up a bilingual. I think his English is also his first language, I think. Kun Pongpon Adireksaan, Kun Thai Taus, Kun Som Tau Sucharit Kun. All these are writers who write in English. So this is a way, because literature is a means through which we can identify our identities or express our identities. Global Englishes does not regard the resulting use of English as deficit or errors, but rather they tend to look at it as creativity and innovation. I don't know, personally, I don't quite agree with the last item here, but people from the Global Englishes perspective, they do not think about any differences as deficit, mistakes, or errors, but rather as a form of creativity and innovation. So this is something that you need to find out further too. But anyway, so that is the idea of Global Englishes. Let me see. Research into ELF. Okay, research into ELF. The venue of research, the arena of research could be classroom settings. After all, ELF, especially in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, for example, ELF is readily observed in international education here in Thailand because we have international schools, right? We have English programs and many other programs where the medium of instruction is English. So that is something that is a spin-off of ELF, right? Classroom interaction, teachers, students, effective input and teaching methods, and native-like competence. Then when we talk about ELF, then we will pay attention to language in real use, English users in intercultural context, and intercultural communicative competence. I'd like you to pay attention to the last item there. ICC, intercultural communicative competence. Let me ask you this question. Are you familiar with the term communicative competence? Are you familiar with the term communicative competence? Yes or no?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, Professor. Often heard it.
Yes. So can someone help me very briefly? What is communicative competence? Can someone help me, please, with a quick definition of communicative competence?
Yes, Professor. I think it's refer to the ability to communicate with other people effectively.
Yes, your answer is yes to a certain extent. But I think when we talk about communicative competence, we talk about grammatical competence, sociolinguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence. Okay, but the traditional term communicative competence still implies that if you want to develop your communicative competence in English, you will need to become like a native speaker of English. So that is a problem with the traditional model of communicative competence. So when we talk about ELF, we begin to broaden the scope of the traditional communicative competence to incorporate intercultural communicative competence into it. By intercultural, that means that you do not have to, in order to be able to speak English or any other language for that matter effectively, you don't need to become like a native speaker of that language. So that is the idea of intercultural communicative competence. In other words, you can still remain tied to the core, and yet you are capable of functioning effectively in English. And you don't have to sound like a native speaker. You may make some sporadic grammatical mistakes here and there, but as long as your messages can, you can convey your messages successfully, then that's the end of the story. That's the final goal. So that's the idea of. So when we talk about ELF, we aim for intercultural communicative competence. That's the point of this slide. When we talk about ELF, we aim at intercultural communicative competence. Okay. Now, to codify linguistic features, the underlying process, and the characterization of choices in any given ELF interaction. Research into ELF also explores ELF use in education, business. In fact, if you skim through any research journals in the field, you will see BELF, business, English as a lingua franca, and tourism domains. That is what I said at the beginning of this lecture, touristic ELF. ELF focus on both spoken and written, but in reality, we tend to focus more on spoken rather than written. Okay. The more frequent use of spoken language in everyday practices. This is another area of focus. The side of constructing understanding useful for assessing communicative success and effectiveness. So because ELF does not focus on linguistic features necessarily, but it focuses on communication strategy. So that's why you can look at how members of an ELF group help each other construct shared understandings. All right, because communicative success and effectiveness will be evaluated based not on linguistic features, but on communication effectiveness. So one more time, ELF prioritizes communication effectiveness over linguistic accuracy. You want to write that down? That would be helpful. One more time, I said what I just said. ELF prioritizes communication effectiveness over linguistic accuracy. Okay, because standard English ideology, which implies standard based on either British or American English, is not that important in an ELF interaction. Okay, written language with its own standard and convention unlikely to change. So this is one area that ELF may not really tap into, which is written language, because I think when we talk about written language, it has to conform to certain standards still, right? Because you cannot just write any way you want. You have got to conform to certain standards. So ELF may not be readily available through written language samples. I hope this is clear. Close attention to detail analysis and description of the talk, the use of naturally occurring data. In terms of data collection for ELF, they would like to have naturally occurring data, the kind of talk. So, but sometimes, you know, really naturally occurring data may be hard to obtain. So that's why you have got to do some sort of an experiment or a quasi-experiment. You have to have a specific group of participants, and then you set up tasks for them to engage in, where they have got to speak English to one another. And then you pay attention to detailed analysis and description of the talk. So the means, the data collection will be conversation analysis or discourse analysis and corpus analysis. Are you familiar with all these terms? Conversation analysis, discourse analysis, and corpus analysis. I think corpus analysis is up and coming. I think no matter where I go, I keep hearing this term, you know, corpus analysis. Ajahn Siddhisak, can you say something about corpus analysis here? I mean, if you can.
Yes, corpus analysis. For the corpus is like the is the unit or the group of text that or the samples that we collect as the data for analysis. Yes, that's such as in written language, it can be essay or the writing journal. Yes, it's
Right.
the corpus analysis. Yes.
And maybe you look for keywords, right, and collocations.
Right, we can study
Right.
some specific
affordances,
yes.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean concordances. Sorry, concordances, and then you look for some sort of patterns there. You know, when you see this word usually, you know, occurs together with this word. So that is collocations there. All right. Good. Research into ELF. Why am I showing this? Oh, let me see. Research can be conducted at the phonology, morphology, syntax, and pragmatics level, right? And you see that big circle there, right? When we talk about phonetics, we talk about what? Phonemes, right? Speech sounds. When we talk about phonology, we talk about phonemes. When we talk about morphology, we pay attention to words. When we talk about syntax, the focus is on phrases and sentences. Semantics, we talk about literal meaning of phrases and sentences, and pragmatics, meaning in context of discourse. All right, so the scope could be as small as phonemes and as large as meaning in context of discourse. So there is a wide-ranging scope of research into ELF, much like linguistics, right? When we do ELF research, people tend to do qualitative research. What is qualitative research? อาจารย์ยุทธจักรครับ if you are there. อาจารย์ยุทธจักร if
Yes,
you
right
can. What is qualitative research?
Okay, to me, quantitative research looks for non-numeric data. Okay, for example, the analysis of words used, discourse, or corpus. Yes, the quality of something. Yes, and judge the data without calculation. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And who else? อาจารย์วิภาพร what is the purpose of qualitative research?
For me,
If you
the
can,
purpose,
if you can, please.
For me, the purpose of qualitative research, because they want to collect the data like the information in depth. They want to know about the information in depth. So
Okay.
Through questionnaire or something that in interview like that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. In depth, I think that's the key word, in depth information. Mary, would you like to add something to this, to what your friends have said? What is the purpose of qualitative research?
Yes, Professor. When we do a research like mixed method to support quantitative data, we do qualitative. We collect qualitative data again to support the quantitative data.
I would say to strengthen. To support is fine, but I prefer the word strengthen. To strengthen the arguments that you have based on quantitative research. Qualitative. Well, why do you think qualitative research could support quantitative data? Why? Or how? Mary, Ajahn Mary again.
Yes, Professor. Maybe there may be a bias in quantitative data. Maybe they are not interested in. They do like how should I say? They make a tick for just to finish, just to, how should I say, to answer the question for not interested in the item, because in quantitative data we cannot contact each other and they only answer in the answer sheet or on the Google form. For qualitative data, we have to contact each other face to face or like interview, and I think there can be free from bias.
Okay, thank you. I think what you are trying to say is that qualitative data could help the researcher gain a better understanding of the research at hand, because sometimes data from the quantitative design may give you superficial information, right? Whereas qualitative data could provide in-depth, broad-based, holistic, and comprehensive information that could really clear up the confusion, any confusion that is based on data or on numbers and statistics only. Because human behaviors cannot always be reduced into numbers. I think we need to tap into feelings, emotions, and belief systems, and all those things. So qualitative research can help us there. So then, in that sense, when we talk about ELF research, people do qualitative research a lot, right? This is the answer. Why qualitative? To explain and understand rather than test hypothesis. Testing hypothesis is the responsibility of quantitative research, to answer the why and how questions, to focus on text and narrative from the users, to use authentic, to use authentic textual, audio, and visual data. All right, to use authentic textual, audio, and visual data. Okay. When we talk about ELF research from the phrenology point of view, the exploration of two interrelated phenomena, pronunciation-based intelligibility problems, and the use of phonological accommodation. So that is something, because when you talk, when you speak English with another non-native speaker of English, sometimes the accent is a real challenge. So you have to do a lot of phonological accommodation. And in terms of lexical grammar, we can talk about what? To identify emerging patterns of lexical and grammatical forms, dropping off S in the third person subject, the omission of articles, and inserting an omission of necessary prepositions. That is a study conducted by Sid Hofer in 2001. In terms of pragmatics, the focus is on the importance of mutual understanding over correctness, and less frequently occurring mis- and non-understanding to a high degree of interactional strategies, such as repetition, paraphrasing, let it pass, right? So let it pass is a strategy most commonly used in ELF research. In other words, even if you don't understand what the person said the first time he or she said it, you let it pass first, and then you try to rely on the context of the conversation, and perhaps you will have a chance to double check what you missed earlier. So this is something that this kind of communication strategy is important, and we often use it in real life situations, especially, even when we speak our first language. Sometimes we don't understand what our conversation partner is trying to say, right? The first time he or she is saying it, but out of politeness, we do not stop that person, midway, but rather we wait for another turn, for another line of conversation, to see whether we could retrieve some sort of additional information to double check with what we have missed earlier. ELF communication is consensus-oriented, cooperative, and mutually supportive. I think for the most part, when you have a group of non-native speakers of English speaking English with one another, in most cases, they try to help each other figure out what is being said, and to make sure that the conversation goes as planned, right? I mean, I have never been in an ELF interaction where when one member of the group makes grammatical mistakes and then the rest of the group condemn the person and then try to correct him or her. No, I don't say that. So in a way, ELF communication is consensus-oriented and cooperative and mutually supportive. Even though some researchers believe that ELF communication does not have to be consensus-oriented all the time. I mean, so we have to do research to find that out. Current research trends. When we talk about current research trends in ELF communication, this is what we have here. All right. Intelligibility in English as a lingua franca, the interpreters. Certainly, we have got to think about the level of intelligibility, because after all, the point of having a conversation with someone or with a group of people is to try to understand, to gain some sort of comprehension. The interpreter's point of view on ELF at the European Commission, a completely uneven playing field. For example, in Europe, the European Commission, right? The World Economic Forum, for example, right? WEF, right? World Economic Forum. You have speakers from multiple nationalities and cultural backgrounds. They speak with a variety of levels of English proficiency. Some are harder to understand than others. So, you know, we have got to be concerned about this point. The practicality of ELF-informed teaching attitudes and perceptions of Chinese business English teachers. I think this is something about classroom setting. Should we allow for ELF to play any role in the classroom, in the English classroom? Would that create more confusion to our students, or would that give them more freedom, more opportunities to be exposed to different kinds of English? So there's something to think about. The discursive framing of Turkey, pro-governmental square movement. I think this is more political in nature. The discursive framing, the framing of the, I think this has to do with discourse, right? The framing of the, for example, a Thai government about 12 years ago, you know, the Prime Minister back then said, เราจะขจัดความยากจนให้หมดไปภายใน 6 ปี This is the kind of framing of the policy to help the listeners, the audience, see concretely that poverty will be eradicated within 6 years, for example. So the discursive framing, I think the word discursive is the adjective of the word discourse, right? Discursive framing of Turkey's pro-governmental square movement. This is a political issue, exploring populist styles of political discourse in Twitter. All right, so this is something you might want to look at when you do research about ELF. It doesn't have to be only English language teaching. It could be wide-ranging like this, you know, from political to business to tourism. Let me see. I think the trend, when we talk about the trend, I think this is a fair representation of the current trend about research in ELF. We start off with academia, right? University settings, for example. This Ajahn Siddhisak, right? This is where you will get to see EMI a lot, you know, English medium instruction in academia. And then business and tourism, like I said in the morning, a Thai colleague of mine at Songkhla Nakarin conducted her Ph.D. research in touristic ELF. And a lot of people have done research dealing with business transactions, politics, translation, and social media. The next slides will provide detailed information of each of these items. You don't have to write down because the next slides will give you more explanation here, okay? For example, in academia, the academic domain, international by nature, universities are on the fast track to becoming globally intertwined with increasing numbers of international students and staff. EMI, English medium instruction programs and universities are, I would say, mushrooming, opening up widely and very fast across the country now. Is that correct? Your program, PhD in ELT, is it an international program?
Yes, it is, because we receive students from many countries.
Right, so that is EMI. So what we are doing here is EMI, right? The integration of ELF into the classroom. So that is an attempt by some researchers who would like to see whether the inclusion of ELF, sorry, the inclusion of ELF in the classroom would help or hurt. I think this is open for debates. What do you think? If you are going to introduce ELF into the classroom, would that help or hurt? อาจารย์จันสุดาครับ Would that help or hurt? Are you still with us? อาจารย์จันสุดาพูดไม่ได้หรือเปล่าผมจำไม่ได้ละไม่สบายอาจารย์จันสุดา Who else is in this group? อาจารย์ศิระประภาครับ อาจารย์ศิระประภา Are you there? อาจารย์
Hello. His daughter is not very good. She's taking
okay.
care of yes.
Oh, okay. Oma Win.
Yes.
Yes, my question is the integration or the inclusion of ELF into the classroom, would that help or hurt?
Yes. Integration of.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it useful or not? Is it useful or not?
It is very useful, sir. It is very useful to understand that.
Yeah, why do you think it is useful?
Yes. By integration of ELF into the classroom, to communicate better, and students and teachers are to communicate well and interactive and they were interactive. They will communicate to each other, and it's better to communicate.
I don't know whether ELF will help students to communicate better, but for sure they will be made aware that different kinds of English exist in the world, so that they will not feel that they have to speak British or American English only in order to be successful. I don't know whether ELF will help students to become more active, more interactive or not, but for sure the introduction of ELF into the classroom will help them more aware of the existence of different Englishes out there in the world. All right. In other words, they will be made aware that English does not just mean American English or British English, but whether ELF will help them feel more interactive, more active, more energetic, I don't know. So we have got to experiment with that. Okay. English as the English as the international language of business of ELF, not associated with the English only of native speakers. So once again, I think these days when we talk about the global economy, right? The center of business is shifting away from the Western world to Asia, for example, the Pacific Rim. So then that is the opportunity for our students to realize that when we talk about business English, once again, the standard doesn't have to come from native speakers only. All right, the standard can be generated within, right, within our own. The feeling of disempowerment of non-native English speakers. I guess one good thing about ELF is that when students are made to feel that they don't have to sound like a native speaker in order to be okay in using English, then they would feel more empowered. They would feel more confident, more empowered to take charge of their own learning of English. I think this is one good thing about it. And we talk about the importance of business expertise and accepted common practice. So that is something that people have done, research that people have done over the years. The touristic domain. I think this is very new. The touristic ELF interactions. You look at the kinds of interaction between local sellers of products and tourist visitors, and they have to speak English, and they use a lot of accommodation strategies to get their business done. Inherently ephemeral, transactional, and goal-oriented. Ephemeral means changing, never fixed. Transactional and goal-oriented. In other words, the focus of ELF in the touristic domain is never about linguistic alone. All right, it is more about goal-oriented, and that goal-oriented means to get their business done so that the seller will be able to sell their products. So I think this is very challenging because sometimes, you know, local sellers, local Thai sellers barely know words of English. So they have got to make do with whatever they have, like nonverbal communication and some other things to help them sell their products. Those concerned in touristic ELF less proficient in English when compared to those in academic and business context. Charoen is the name, is the last name of my colleague at Songkhla Nakarin. She did her dissertation in England. I don't remember the name of the university, Portsmouth, I think, University in England. Her dissertation is about touristic ELF, and it seems that those sellers, local Thai sellers of products, do not care about English accuracy at all. They just do or say whatever they can in order to sell their goods. All right. So that is a real challenge. The politics domain, the investigation of unexplored areas from the pragmatic perspective and the prism of critical discourse analysis. I think when we talk about CDA, critical discourse analysis, we talk about the identity construction, for example. When you see the adjective critical, that means that you are not happy with the status quo and you want to unpack, you want to dig deeper to find out more about what is going on, right, through that discourse. So that is critical CDA. And then when we talk about CDA in relation to ELF, we tend to think about identity. The exploration of how political discourse can take on the unique linguistic properties of the cultural context. This is also another study by Chia in 2020. The translation domain, I run through this very quickly. Interpreters will encounter an ever-increasing number of ELF users as speakers in their work. So these days, those who are interpreters will have to work harder to try to understand those different kinds of English. Interpreters' familiarity with ELF use increases comprehension. Professional interpreters possess high efficient comprehension strategies that allow them to carry out a deeper semantic analysis. So in other words, ELF for the translation domain will mean that interpreters will have to be better prepared to be exposed to and to interpret those ELF versions of English, right? The digital let me see, I skipped something. Practicing and future interpreters must be specifically trained in the concrete skills necessary to provide high quality interpretation in ELF settings. Yeah, I think you can imagine that this is going to be a real challenge. All right. Let me see. the digital communication and social media domains. Okay, the impact of digital media on the spread of English worldwide. Can somebody give me an example of the impact of digital media on the spread of English worldwide? Can you give an example of this statement? The impact of digital media on the spread of English. อาจารย์สมยงครับ Can you? I mean, if you can, I need your help. The impact of digital media, for example, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on the spread of English worldwide.
Okay, for the impact from digital media to the person in the city, especially the student, they can learn English from media, like they can find the information from Facebook, or they can learn English through the program in social media, like Facebook or the Instagram. Yes, it can help the student or the people in the city to learn about English. Yes, sir.
Okay. So media, digital media, as a teaching materials, right? For students to learn English. What else? May I? อาจารย์ยุทธจักร
Yes, Professor. In my idea, the spread of English, okay, has got some impact from the digital media. Okay, what comes to my mind is that the platform, okay, global platform that can reach people in every corner of the world, like Twitter or Instagram. Okay, that platform, and then these platforms are produced by American people. Okay, and then when they want to use the English, of course they have to use the American variety. So people who are using these platforms will have we will see the English in American style, idioms or anything. Yes, that's why the spread of English, the American English, is so quick and is so wide. It can reach people because those platforms are used by those people, and the users have greater chances to get exposed to the language of the platform creators. That's my point. Yes.
So both of you have touched on the benefits, right? The advantages of digital media on the spread of English, right? But what about the disadvantages of digital media? Do you see any threats, any problems accompanying digital media and the spread of English for Thai students, for Thai people?
Okay, if I focus on the language only, okay, if I don't talk about the behaviors, the rudeness, anything, okay, if my answers are focuses on only the language, yes, I think there are some disadvantages. Okay, for example, these platforms are used by people of different varieties of English. Sometimes, okay, sometimes they insert broken English or bad English to the platforms, and then the Thai students, if they are not good at English, they cannot distinguish which one is correct, which one is
very good.
Right.
Yes.
And then they begin to accept those broken English, and then those broken English will appear in their homework and submit to the teachers someday.
Yes. So the digital media gives the teacher a hard time, a lot of headaches, right? Because students, young students tend to be hooked by mass media more than by their teachers. All right, and the digital media is with them 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whereas the teacher is not there every single minute. So that is something that is a real challenge for us teachers. I mean, especially when you teach writing, it is going to be very difficult for you to to really stem the flow of bad influence, bad writing from the mass media. The examination of, we also talk about the examination of pragmatic functions of English and other languages serve, and how various linguistic choices affect identity work in the context of digital communication. All right, let's take a look at Kang Ku Bai, right? Kang Ku Bai, most recently. A young colleague of mine at NIDA is also, posing, that kind of gesture. I don't know how to do it this way, right? It has to be this way, right? And then with the I don't know, concubines, that is something, So I think younger generations tend to have a global identity, not necessarily local identity, because they tend to look alike, they want to sound alike, they want to dress alike, they want to think alike. You know what I mean? So this is something interesting. The development of new norms of politeness and opposition. Politeness is a big thing here, especially through writing. Once in a while, I receive email from my NIDA students, all right? My NIDA students who write email to me in English and sound as if they were giving me an order to do something. For example, they want to see me. They want to make an appointment to see me, in my office. But what they wrote in that email was something like, I want to see you tomorrow at 8. See you then. So I have got to be in my office at 8 in the morning because I have been ordered to be in my office at 8 by my student. All right. So sometimes students do not have, this kind of sense of politeness. ELF and classroom. Increased attempt to integrate the concept of ELF into the classroom. What do you think? I think I asked you this question already, but let me hear from those of you who have. Jimon, I have not asked you to say something as frequently as I should. Jimon.
Yes, Professor.
Yes. Can you answer this question on the screen now? Increased attempt to integrate
Professor.
the concept of ELF into the classroom. What do you think?
Yes, for me, I think increasing attempt to integrate the concept of ELF into the classroom plays a vital role in the future in learning and teaching. I mean, especially for the teachers, because when we are using English language as a foreign language, we are challenging, for example, in our culture, Myanmar, normally we use mother tongue in the language, especially since I was a student, I have been familiar with my teachers teaching English with our mother tongue. And then for me, hardly ever seen using English when we are learning English language. This is my student experience since I was young. So when I became a teacher, and then I try to practice to use English as a lingua franca, especially in the classroom. But I'm challenging some of the factors, especially among them one factor is that most of my learners said that they come from different cultural background and different accents. So when the teacher is using English all the time in the teaching, and then they can understand well. And then so they think that most of the teachers use mother tongue, but some of the teachers use English as a lingua franca. So they think that they can understand well, and then they will focus on their exam. That's why I think all the teachers need to increase their attempt to integrate the concept of ELF into the classroom. So I totally agree.
You totally agree. But I think what you meant by ELF simply refer to English, I think, because when we talk about ELF, we talk about various or variable ways of speaking English by different people from different cultures and different nationalities. In other words, when we talk about ELF in this context, it is not just about English per se. It is about English as spoken by people from different cultures. So, for example, you may expose your student to people from India who speak with the Indian accent, people from Japan who speak with the Japanese accent, people from Thailand who speak with the Thai accent. I think this is what is meant by ELF in this question. But Jimon, I think your answer has to do with the English that you refer to may not be ELF, but it is English. I think you simply refer refer to the fact that teachers, Burmese teachers, when teaching English, should speak more English, right? Or should speak English only, so that the students will be exposed to English input as much as possible. I think that is what you meant, correct?
Professor, yes. Yes,
yeah, but this question, when we talk about ELF, we talk about like what I said, you know, we give our students examples of an Indian person speaking English, a Japanese person speaking Japanese English, a Taiwanese person speaking Taiwanese English, a Thai person speaking Thai English, for example. You know what I mean? So with the Thai accent, with the all those things. So in that sense, I don't know whether that would help or hurt, because your students may get even more confused. I think when I said Indian English, I mean Indian accent, with the Indian accent, with the Japanese accent, with the Thai accent, with the different accents. So I don't know whether your student would get more confused or not. What about the rest of you? Vipaporn, what do you think? Ajahn Vipaporn. Ajahn Vipaporn.
Yes, sir. I just come from outside.
Okay.
Think about what? ELF in classroom?
Yeah, you see the question on the screen.
Increase attempt to integrate the concept of ELF into the classroom. Yes, I think so. We have to because in nowadays there are many we use English to communication. So we have to teach our students to know about ELF in the classroom, because it will make students can understand easily about how to learn English. That's all for me.
So you mean exposing Thai students to different accents of English will help them speak better English? I think that is what you said. I don't know whether I would like to agree with you on this point now, but let me hear from the others.
Yes, Ajahn, let me share.
Yes, yes, please.
Since morning, you talk about ELF in the business context. As a teacher of business English programs, I really agree with this, with ELF. Because, I teach students in English for hotels and English for
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
When I teach my student, I just how to say, try to make them a chance to speak out with confidence and politeness. Because if they get it and work in the hospitality industry, they might be serve a lot of varieties of people who use English. So it is important for me and also my colleague to raise our awareness to pay attention in the classroom.
Yes.
Yes.
I think what you are trying to say is that we should use ELF as a supplement or as a complement to the curriculum, so that your students will be given the opportunity to explore what is going on when people speak English with different accents, right? So this is a complement. This is a complement rather than the replacement of the curriculum, I think. So I agree. Yes, is that correct, Ajahn Chansida? What I said?
Yes, ka.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. All right. อาจารย์สมยงเอาใครพูดครับเชิญเลยครับเชิญเลยครับ
Yes, now it's
อาจารย์สิทธิศักดิ์
it's nearly 2:30. It's nearly the time for the break for coffee. Yes, Professor. And maybe 2 more minutes. Yes.
Just take a break then.
Okay,
yeah, you
we
can
can
go ahead and take a break now.
Yes, we can share more after the break anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's have a 10-minute break. Thank you very much.
อาจารย์มน
Yes, yes, อาจารย์ James.
อากาศบุรีรัมย์เป็นไงบ้างครับ
บุรีรัมย์ก็ is a bit cloudy. It seems it's going to rain, but not yet. What about in Roy Ed ครับ
It has been sunny for 2 days. Today is the second day. Yes, I prefer sunny days because they make me
You go jogging, right? You
Yeah.
go jogging around your paddy field.
right. Yes, after this.
Okay, yes, now the invited speaker comes with us. Okay, welcome back to the webinar again, Global Englishes, What Really Matters by Assistant Professor Dr. Saksit Saengboon from School of Language and Communication, National Institute of Development Administration, or NIDA. And yes, we also have some questions to answer after the webinar, and the questions raised by our respected dean, our professor. Yes, number one, clarify the two paradigms of world Englishes and English as a lingua franca, or ELF, with some examples. Second, identify 2 to 4 current research works published in Scopus journals relevant to world Englishes and EFL or ELF. Wow, very interesting. And third, how do you apply knowledge obtained from this webinar to your own current dissertation? Yes, the third one is also interesting as well. Yes, that's the questions from our professor. And next, okay, I would like to give the floor to our invited speaker again. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. ELF and classroom. The prototypical ELF speaker is one who uses English without either being a native speaker or a learner. So I guess the point of ELF and classroom is that when we talk about ELF, we do not refer to learners of English as much as we do refer to users of English or speakers of English. All right. Well, but when we talk about the term EFL, English as a foreign language, the term EFL implies the teacher and the learners in the classroom setting. I think essentially when we talk about ELF, we do not think about English language learners as much as we do about English language users. So right from the start, ELF has nothing to do with the classroom setting. To be honest with you, ELF has nothing to do with the classroom setting at all. In other words, when we talk about ELF, we talk about sociolinguistics, we talk about pragmatics, we talk about something else that is not English language teaching to begin with. Okay, so that's why when you try to make a connection between ELF and classroom, it could be really challenging. It could be really difficult, if not impossible, to to find a proper match between ELF and classroom. But I realized that some researchers have been trying to argue that ELF deserve to be in a classroom setting like Gali and some others. These are examples of research, published research, focusing on ELF, right? Let me see. If you take a look at this and you pay attention to the underlying parts, this study presents one main conflict and 3 subsidiary conflicts regarding the implementation of ELF-informed teaching in the business English program. Ajahn Chansuda, you might want to get familiar with this article. The main conflict is between teachers' general awareness of ELF and their expressed preference for native English-based teaching. The 3 subsidiary conflicts are between English as a native language-based learning and ELF-informed teaching, English for tests and English for use, intervention and innovation. This article was published in 2019 the Journal of English as a Lingua Franca. I don't know whether you can have access to this journal or not, Ajahn Jansuda. If you do, then this is going to be a good read for you who teaches business English, right? So this is something that's why when I asked you earlier to express your ideas about whether there is a proper match between ELF and classroom, EFL classroom teaching, I think I was asking you too much, because you would need to do research to find out whether it would hurt or help students to become more aware of the existence of ELF. A study of Thai university students' attitudes toward pronunciation models in English as a lingua franca. Just take a look at the highlight there. Just read. Why don't you take a look at the underlined parts there? The findings of this study reveal that the participant had moderate attitudes toward their desired English pronunciation models and their interlocutors' English pronunciation models. However, the participants had negative attitudes towards English as a lingua franca. The Thai students in this study did not want to hear any English with any different or thick accents. The participant had highly positive attitudes towards American English and British English pronunciation models. They also believed that maintaining their Thai English pronunciation model was not important. So, people in the area of world Englishes or ELF would support, lend a strong support for ELF in the classroom. But for this particular group of Thai students in this study, they would prefer still British and American accents. You see, so that's why I keep saying that we have to do research to find this out. In other words, students don't care whether they should be made aware of different accents or not, because their concern is about to understand British and American accented English. This one is what? English as a lingua franca, exploring student accent from English teachers' perspective. I think what is the point there is. Questionnaire and semi-structured interview reveal that teacher participant had no negation and objection towards their student accents. The findings further indicate that mutual intelligibility and successful communication are prioritized, as well as strong preference for native English varieties for being pedagogical models. So when they asked practicing teachers, Thai teachers teaching English, they still prefer to stick to British and American English. So what do you say? Now at this stage, I have to pause and ask you individually, starting from Ajahn Sittisak. Do you want still to stick to British and American English, or do you want to welcome varieties of English into the classroom, or in your case? Ajahn Sittisak.
Yes, Professor. Yes, from my view, I think that I would like to do like the question that you asked previously. I would like to do the ELF integration in the classroom, because I think when the student learn more about the ELF, yes, English as a lingua franca, or the student will have I like the word that you use, Professor. Their perspective will be broadened. Yes. Yes. Their perspective will be broadened, and they will understand and recognize that not only Thai people that use English like the way we use English, but also the people around the world in other countries, they also use English as the way they use and they like. So I think it can help the student reduce their pressure and anxiety about mistakes, so they might do their task better. Yes, thank you.
So you see more benefits than harm. You see more benefit than harm when it comes to you know, the inclusion of ELF in the typical classroom.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Let me see what else. What do we have next? Accent priority in a Thai university context, a common sense revisited. This is by two professors of Songkhla Nakarin, I think Hat Yai, I guess. What they have to say is this: the findings of this study suggest that even though the majority of learners prefer native speaker accents as models for learning and use, they considered non-native Englishes worth understanding and learning. So in other words, they don't mind being taught other versions of English other than British and American English. It doesn't hurt for them, but they don't mind that, and probably this will help broaden their horizon, their linguistic horizon, so to speak. So I think it's a matter of preference here. Another research by a Taiwanese professor, I think, a study of Taiwanese university students, English use, learning goals, and attitudes toward English as a lingua franca. Right? English as a lingua franca. This is what they have. It is found that the learners preferred English conforming to native speaker norms, yet they wish to learn local variation of English concerning accents and word use. So this is like a middle ground approach, you know, is I don't object to it, but I still prefer native speakers norms because I want to speak good English. But then again, I don't mind being told what other varieties are, what other versions of English are. Okay. What is this? The classroom setting, I think this is an argument from someone. The classroom setting is a unique social environment, imposing particular social positions, norms, and practices on learners. So the person would like to say that what should be the ultimate aim of having an English classroom? What should be the ultimate goal of having an English classroom here in Thailand or in Myanmar? So what do you say, Ajahn Somyong Kap? Ajahn Somyong. This researcher argues that the classroom should be a unique social environment which imposes particular social positions, norms, and practices on learners. For example, when we teach English to Thai students, when we teach English to Burmese students, we should teach them standard English that is globally accepted, right? We should give them the best models of English so that they would come to appreciate standard English. So what do you say? What do you say? Would you agree? Would you disagree? What do you think?
Yes, sir. For me, when we teach the student in English, normally we have to teach them in standard English. Although we use lingua franca, but when we teach them, we have to use the standard English because the student have to understand what is the exactly language that they use. But for practice, sometimes they might be mistake. The student don't worry the mistake when they practice because they have to practice a lot to solve the problem that they make. Although if they study in the standard English, they have to know what is the subject, what is the verb, what is the main verb, what is the structure of sentence. If they know the exactly sentence structure, they know English grammar, they know a lot of English in the standard language or in standard English language. So when they practice, they might be correct or incorrect, and that is not my decision. Have to practice a lot for solve the problem when they use English in the practice. This is important. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you are in favor of standard English in the classroom because that is how the learners will be able to model after, and when they, but at the same time the teacher should make sure that whenever students make mistakes or do not produce the exact form that the teacher wants, then the learners should not be punished for the mistakes they have made, inadvertently or intentionally, because the point is to give them the opportunity to practice good English as much as they can. I think that is what you have to say. อาจารย์วิมลพันธ์ครับ
วิภาพรหรือเปล่าคะ
Oh, โทษวิภาพร โทษครับ I get confused. It's been a long day. It's been a long day, and I ended up giving you a new name. Sorry.
Thank you for beautiful name.
Sorry.
In my opinions, I totally agree with because I think I work as a teacher because I am a teacher in high schools. So I usually focus on standard English because of the curriculum in Thailand that based on standard English. So when I teach my student, I usually use like a British or American English in the class. So our textbooks is British and American too. So it's make me follow this, and moreover, we have to test about CEFR for teachers and for students too. Yes, that's why we focus on standard English.
I think CEFR, you can say CFR as well, or CEFR. CFR, yeah, either way is fine. I think CFR or CEFR is a tool to empower students. In other words, it is not a test in itself. It is a scale to place students or learners, at different levels of proficiency. And there is no pass or fail. I think the point of CFR is not to fail anyone, but just to give him or her accurate information about his or her current level of English proficiency, so that he or she would know the weaknesses or room for improvement. And then the teacher would give those students more opportunity to practice. So ranging from A1 to C2, right? But the point of CFR is good. I mean, but it should not be used as a test. It should be used as a tool to help learners come to understand their true English proficiency, and especially room for improvement. I think that's the point, right? We should not use it as a cutoff point, but that is good. Who else? Ajahn Marvin. What do you have to say about the unique social environment imposing particular social positions, norms? In other words, classroom should be a special place where we give our students the best of everything, the best English, the best learning opportunity, the best teacher, the best teaching materials, and whatnot. So Ajahn Omar, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Social position and social position being we can facilitate the we can share the information, and we can share ideas and interests, and we so we can share information, ideas, and interests as social position. Okay, we can do well.
So I think what I glean from your answer is that I think the word is facilitate. The classroom is the place where we can facilitate learning. I think that is what you wanted to say. Let me hear from Mary, from Ajahn Mary, please.
Yes, Professor.
The same point.
Yes, I agree with the statement. Unique social environment imposing particular social position, norms, and practice on learners. Especially in ELT classroom, for me, I think we should have norm or standards so that we can correct or we can teach our students, we can explain, we can teach them what is right or what is wrong. And we can make a test clearly, but we can accept English as a lingua franca in doing activities, in explaining the languages, in explaining the reading passages, or in doing activities. Although we can accept English as a lingua franca to communicate well or to give messages each other, but for giving our student the right message, which is right or what how to use it, or if they, for example, although in speaking, in communication, we can forgive the errors the student make. For example, they said, for example, instead of saying I'm go, or some student may say I am go, but we can accept the error like this. But in the test, after the, for example, in the exam, if we don't have the norms or standards, we teacher cannot make the correction, or we cannot make a pass or fail exam. So in English language teaching classroom, the norm or standard is still important for me, I think.
Oh, very well said. Very well said. I agree that so that means that you are in full support of this statement that classroom is a unique social environment, right? Yeah. So that's true, because I would say that given the fact that the digital media is ever present, I mean, is ubiquitous, is everywhere. I guess students, especially younger generations, they can help themselves by searching for various versions of English by themselves through the digital media. I mean, they don't need the classroom, right, for that kind of thing. So, but the classroom has a limited allotment of time. So I think we should preserve that precious amount of time in the classroom to focus on what is standard English, so that they would know the norm that is widely accepted, that is globally accepted. But certainly we do not attempt to punish them every time they make mistakes, but rather we try to help them little by little to point out that what is right and what is wrong. So I think your take, Ajahn Mary, on this is a middle ground approach. You have got to be a little bit compromising, right? Trying to keep the standard, but at the same time, do not neglect, what is an added on item like ELF in the classroom. So I think I think in English we call it like binary position or dichotomous thinking. You don't think into opposite directions, either or direction. That is not healthy enough for us. But we have got to be strategic in our selection of teaching materials and teaching examples and material and techniques to help our students to come to appreciate, what the role of standard English and these rich options of ELF out there in the real world. I think this is what you said. Very nice, very nice. Do you have anything else? Anybody else would like to say something about this point?
I just would like to have your idea. I really like your opinions about the CFR, because you mentioned that it's not the way to test them by using this kinds of that's what you call CFR, common European framework, something like that.
Right.
So, but why in Thailand so many institutes, including school, they are very crazy about it. Try to persuade or maybe try to force their students to pass the English criteria, English test by comparing CFR with other English benchmark like a TOEFL, like a CU, just like that.
I attended a meeting once long ago, maybe 3 years ago, and I asked a question to the chairperson. Why do we have to be overly concerned about CFR? And the chairperson yelled at me that I should go back and read and I should shut up. Okay. And to answer your question, I think it's a fad. You know this word, right? FAD is a fad. It is like it is something trendy. Everyone does it, so I have to do it. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. CFR, in fact, CFR is intended for adults, working adults, not school students. No. CFR, when it was first implemented in Europe in the late 1970s, all right, it is nothing new at all. It was used in the late 1970s in Europe for adult workers who want to work in another country. For example, an Italian worker wanting to work in Germany. All right, so that Italian worker would need to take CFR to see whether this person, the proficiency of German was at which level, so that he would be able to place in the right kind of job. You know what I mean? But I don't agree with the idea of having CFR calibrated with students in the school system, because the language and everything is just for work. And I think in that meeting I was questioning the idea of having elementary school students, very young students, primary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to be tested using CFR, because I don't see the point of having those students take the test using CFR, because students in primary 1, ประถม 1, ประถม 2, ประถม 3, ประถม 4, I think they have more or less the same low level of English proficiency anyway for most Thai learners. So in other words, it would be just a waste of time. But I think it's a fashion. Everyone has to do it. NIDA doesn't do it. NIDA doesn't do it. I don't see the point of trying to calibrate the raw score with CFR. So, but I'm not. I was not allowed to say anything because the chairperson yelled at me, like I should shut up, something like that, because I don't know anything. So
Thank you
that's why.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
opinion sir.
thank you, Ajahn.
โอเคครับ
yeah. That's something weird to me, but it was such a mean conference. It was a mean meeting. It was ferocious, and the chairperson was very mad at me, and she was very angry. I think the word is irate. I think the English word is irate. She was very
Let me
irate
share
about
for
my
you.
asking.
Let
Yes.
me share a little bit.
Yes.
Because I wonder that's why because at my school my students have a test CFR test 2. So for my opinion, I think just only teacher is enough. Because for student, I think useless. Because it make my student they like they stress from this too. Yes, but we have student have to test too for my student in my school. Yes.
I think those authorities who borrow the concept from Europe has a misconception about the function of CFR. I think they had a misconception about CFR because, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, if a student can score less than 50%, you don't have to use CFR to tell you that they need help, right?
Yes.
Why do we have to have CFR still? Because if they score below 50%, that simply means they need help from us, from the school. And then you arrange special classes for them. That's it. All right. But there is no need to make a comparison and a contrast between and among students. But for teachers, for English teachers, I agree, because it is your job, right? And you are an adult. You should, if you want to teach at this level, you should score at the C1 level. That is fair, right? Because it is for adults. But CFR is never for school learners. I don't see why. But like I said, I asked 2 or 3 times, and then the chairperson was mad as hell. And she was yelling at me. Oh, very, very brutal, very bad. But I didn't say anything because I didn't want to pick a fight. I mean, I was asking because I really want to know why. But maybe the teacher, the chairperson was took it personal, you know, took it like as a personal matter, and she wanted to humiliate me in front of the other person. But I don't care. Okay. Sorry about that. I mean, anything that is Western conceived is not always appropriate for us. You know, don't ภาษาอังกฤษบอกว่า don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't try to follow the herd. Don't jump on the bandwagon. What works in the Western world may not work for us. Don't get too overly excited about it. You know what I mean? Much like teaching approaches and teaching methods. Communicative language teaching has been around for more than 40 years. And you know that. You know, a lot of Thai people cannot still speak English. Even though the initiator of the CLT approach, right, communicative approach, really advertised its, you know, that product as the best teaching approach ever. But still, you know, a lot of Thai people cannot speak English. So maybe we do it the Thai way, may work better. Even though I my master's and PhD from the United States, that doesn't mean that everything made in America has to be the best. I don't think so. We have to be selective. We have to think for ourselves. จริงไหมครับท่านคณบดี We have to think for ourselves. We have to think for ourselves. We have to think for ourselves by looking at our own context and conditions. We do not reject any new ideas, but we have got to be very careful in implementing those new ideas and practices. I think the English word is we have to have cautious optimism. We have to have cautious optimism In other words, we have to be very strategic. We have to be very careful in deciding for ourselves what is best for us. What is made in America, what is made in England may be good for America and England and may not be good for us, Thailand. Right?
Thank you. Clear,
Yeah.
clear perception. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, now let's see. Educational and classroom goals regulate the norms of interaction in every aspect, giving and receiving instructions or feedback, proving and following models of behaviors, and in practices of assessing performances. This touches on CFR as well. All right. So, educational and classroom goals regulate the norms of interaction, right? Ranging from giving and receiving instruction or feedback, proving and following models of behaviors, and assessing performances. Let's see, what else do I have? I don't know what it is, what this is. Let me see. Those involved with English can change their roles as language learners in the classroom, but as language users of the same language outside the classroom. Okay, so global English is what really matters. I think this is attempting to answer that question, what really matters. So what really matters is this: number one, those involved with English can change their roles as language learners in the classroom, but as language users of the same language outside the classroom. In other words, we should teach our students to think beyond their confined classroom walls, that they should think of themselves not only as English language learners, but also as language users, right? In other words, they learn English in order to use English in real life situations. Outside the, what really matters, the answer number two is, outside the classroom, the users do not share a cultural background and goal of language learning, target language. In other words, when they step outside the classroom, students should be prepared to be confronted with a lot of differences that they are not familiar with as far as English goes. So be prepared for that kind of challenge as well. What really matters when we talk about global English, answer number three is, in real life communication, appropriate norms are not given but negotiated. In other words, you have got to take into consideration different contexts of language use, and you play by the ears. You just go with the flow. If in a testing context, right, when you take high stakes exams, you have got to use standard English, so then you go for standard English. But when you get into a social gathering where you are confronted with, where you are with people from different nationalities, different first language backgrounds, then friendship, how to create rapport of friendship, the right kind of friendship, using your own version of English, listening to different versions of English, that is fine, but you have to negotiate that. By negotiation, we can rely on accommodation strategies or communication strategies. So I think this is something that may need to be emphasized in the English language classroom as well. Okay, so this is something that I would like to point out. I think almost. Let me see. What is this? ELF and classroom. The classroom has no speech community, no codification of ELF, teaching model and evaluation standard. So this is going back to the point I asked earlier a while ago, whether ELF should be incorporated into the classroom or not. All right, because ELF has no speech community, there is no codification of ELF, and teaching model and evaluation standard are required. So it helps or hurts. Some of you said that it may hurt. Some of you say that it may help. It depends on how we are going to appropriate ELF in the classroom or introduce ELF in the classroom. All right, so that is something we did talk about. Let me see what else. ELF and classroom, the enhancement of intercultural awareness and competence in order to decrease the gap between what is learned and taught and what learners need to encounter outside the classroom. I think this is important when we try to provide a proper match between ELF and classroom teaching. We have to realize that the original purpose of ELF is the enhancement of intercultural awareness and intercultural communicative competence. That is the point of ELF, to develop intercultural awareness and intercultural communicative competence. And why do we have to do this? The answer is to decrease the gap between what is learned and taught and what learners need to encounter outside the classroom. So some of you said that ELF materials should be used as complements in the class, as a complement in the classroom. That is the answer. In order to decrease the gap between what is learned and taught, which is in most cases standard English, and what learners need to encounter or outside the classroom. So like I said, we try to reach the middle ground where everyone seems to be relatively happy with what they do, what they have to do. Okay. All right, so no question. Any question now? Any remarks? Any added on items you want to share here? You have any question, any remarks now? Okay. Now, I think this is the last slide maybe. English is now a global language. If you take a look at the picture first, English is now a global language. And then those, I think this is the ivory tower, right? The ivory tower, I don't know how to translate that into Burmese, so sorry. The ivory tower. Those researchers at the top, on top of the tower, English is now a global language. So one of them points down to the listener below, you need to change. And those below, like English language teachers and English language learners, are wondering what those in the ivory tower are trying to say. So one of them said, be more specific. Or how? If I want to change, if you want to change how to teach English in the Thai classroom, in the Burmese classroom, how can I change? And I think the one on the bottom left, the one in the bottom left couldn't care less. So for whom we change global English, for whom? All right. So I think what this cartoon is trying to portray is there is a large divide between theorists in the ivory tower on the one hand and practitioners, right, or classroom teachers and learners on the other hand. So the challenge, one of the challenges for us, one of the questions that I cannot answer now is, how are we going to close the gap or the divide? How are we going to provide a missing link between theorists and practitioners? What do you think, Ajahn Sithisak, right? Ajahn Sithisak, you look like you are having something to say.
Yes, Professor. For this, I think it's very important to make a clear concept and better understanding for the teachers who
right.
English. Yes, it can start from the perspective or the attitude from the teacher who teach English. If they are aware of the differences and the ELF, yes, if they understand the concept about ELF, I think they can bring this theory into practice in the classroom. They will be able to do it. Yes, thank you.
So I like what you said, Ajahn Sithisak. I think a point of departure to bridge the gap between theorists and practitioners is we need to have all these key terms defined precisely and make sure that the teachers truly understand the direct and implied meaning of such terms like ELF, for example. So a good point of departure is the right kind of understanding of the terms involved here. Because when you have different understandings, right, you end up talking about different things and you will never be able to understand one another. Right, so that is something very good. Ajahnอะไรนะ I'm not very good at names here. Ajahn Yuthajak.
Yes, Professor.
How can we bridge the gap between theorists and practitioners?
Okay. Okay. I think the shortcut is to, bring them into the round table first. Okay, because this is the way. Yes. For theorists, is to it's good that they have the ideas to or the direction for the English language teaching, but for Thailand or for specific areas of Thailand, okay, we need to be specific because there are differences, okay, among learners. So practitioners, okay, I think practitioners are the group of people who know well how to do and how to handle English teaching in the situation over there.
Right.
Okay, so to bridge the gap between the theorists and the practitioners, I think they, if possible, okay, they should meet each other and share. Yes.
Right.
But anyway, I think both of the sides have to listen to each other.
Yes, I think listening is key here. Listening is of utmost importance here. Yes.
That's right. For the theorists, okay, we have to respect them for some aspect because sometimes English language teaching will be successful if the practitioners could use the right methods or approaches to teach the people in the specific area. So practitioners have to listen to these people. So
very good.
Yes, and in turn, practitioners have their own rights to adapt their theories, okay, to meet the situations where they are, right? So both of them, if they listen to each other, I think that ELT in Thailand or other parts of the world will be successful. That's what I think, Professor.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. Ajahn Mary, the same point, the same question.
Yes, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
In this context, I think practitioner is the most important person because they will have to deal with in the real situation, and by using the theory set by theorists, and they will have to encounter the challenges or the benefits. And after they have met the challenges, they could revise again, and they should discuss with the theorists again and how can they overcome this difficulty or challenges among theory and in the real situation in practice, among theory and practice. After that, they can make changes and how they handle to be engaged the student in the real life situation in the classroom. And they can apply the right approaches or method. So in this context, I think practitioners is the most important person here.
Very well said. Very well said. I think I agree with you completely. I much like what อาจารย์ยุทธศักดิ์เรียกชื่อผิดไหมครับเนี่ยอาจารย์ยุทธศักดิ์ไม่ใช่อาจารย์
ยุทธจักร yes
Yuttha-chak. Much like what Ajahn Yuttha-chak said earlier, listening is key to everything here. So if theorists are willing to listen to practitioners, and if practitioners are willing to listen to theorists, then we can, that is a point of departure. We can really expect to come to some sort of agreements here and there. Let me hear from the rest of you, the same point here. Ajahn Somyong, maybe you might want to say something here.
Yes, sir. I agree with Ajahn Dolly and Ajahn Yuttha-chak. The theoretic is the theory of the language that we have to learn. And mostly the teacher have to understand the theory of the language or the field of teaching the student. If the teacher understand or clearly and tell the student or teach the student in language, so that student have to learn from the teacher. If the teacher understand clearly, they can advise or teach the student clearly. The student understand what the teacher had teach them. They can practice and they can improve themselves, especially in the 4 skill of language. These 4 skills have go together, like speaking, listening, writing, and reading skill. These 4 skills is important to the student who learns English language, so that the student have to practice themselves from the for improve their 4 skill. This is for my opinion. Yes, sir.
Good, very good, very good. I think along the same line. I think what Ajahn Somyong said is along the same line with the 2 other speakers before him. I once thought to myself, maybe theorists need to transform themselves into primary school teachers for 1 year, and then they would know which aspects of their theories work and which would not work. All right, Ajahn, I want every one of you to say something. Ajahn อาจารย์ไม่ใช่วิภาพรผมไม่ได้เปลี่ยนชื่อนะคราวนี้อาจารย์วิภาพร the same point.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
That's the same point.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think first of all, we have to the theory because from the theories to practitioners. I think practitioners that's like teacher. Teacher have to know about the theories, and then teachers know well or insight about the theory and try to use the strategies to transfer to the learners, because to solve the problems about English. Yes, I think the most important is a teacher that's like the practitioners that have to know well and know about the strategy to solve the problems for their student, because teacher know well about their student. Yes.
Okay, I think I agree with you. I think what you said could be encapsulated into one phrase, and that is we need the informed teacher. The teacher has to be informed has to be knowledgeable about current theories, and then combined with their years of of teaching experiences, they would know which theory would help them in which situation. Very good, very good. Who else I haven't asked? Let me see. เดี๋ยวนะครับอาจารย์ศิรประภาครับ
Yes. Can you hear me?
The same point about theorists and practitioners. How are we going to, lessen the gap or the divide between these two groups?
We have to make them practice like in actions more, so they can become and how do you say it? an active learner, like
yeah, why not? Yes. So that they will have hands-on or first-hand experiences of what's going on in the classroom. Yes.
Not just only learning about theories, but make them
that's right.
make into actions.
That's right. Yeah. So that they will have hands-on experience or first-hand experience. Very good. Oma Win.
Yes, sir.
The same point. If you have anything to say here.
Yes. According to linguistic theories, language becomes a global language because of the power of the people who speak it. Their language, people are changing all the time, and their language changes too, to keep up with them. And they believe that the spoken language is the only object of study and applied different analytic procedures to study language. And the study or meaning systematically in the vocabulary grammar of natural language and structures. Yes, systematic structures. Yes, sir.
So I think if I understand you correctly, you were talking about like tasks, right, that they should be involved in, that should be meaningful and realistic and responsive to their needs. I think this is what you were trying to say. I hope I got your message correct. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Jimon Cho, please.
Professor, yes. For me, now, as you see, English is not a global language, and then theorists and practitioners are playing an important role. But for me, I also think practitioners is more important than theorists, because although we know the norm and the standard of English, for example, but if we can practice well, or if we can practice in the right way, we can get the effects, and we can improve the target and the aims of our goals. So in practicing in the right way is the more important. That's why the role of practitioners plays an important role than theorists.
So what you are saying is that theorists should serve practitioners rather than indoctrinate them into thinking something. Theorists should serve practitioners, because after all, we are talking about the teaching of a language. And when it comes to this human behavior of teaching and learning something, theorists may not give us the final answer. The final answer will have to rest with classroom practitioners. Who else I haven't yet asked to say something? ผมข้ามใครไปเลยครับ
Yes, me.
Yes, อาจารย์จันสุดาครับ please.
Yes, actually, I do agree with Ajahn Yuthajak and Ajahn Mary. May I list as more like?
Yes.
a Q&A.
Yes.
According to the pictures, there are just some question from the maybe some question from the practitioner, right? So it is like there is duty to answer any question is quite not clear for them, and also if the jurist and the petitioner would like the gap fulfilled, so they have to listen to each other, like Ajahn mentions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I think the word to summarize what you said is creative dialogues. There must be creative or constructive dialogues. I think constructive is a better word. Constructive dialogues between theorists and practitioners should be in existence. I mean, we should have constructive dialogues between theorists and practitioners. All right. And then practitioners should be empowered to think for themselves as well. But before they can think for themselves what is good, what is appropriate, what is not good, what is inappropriate, they would need to be aware of existing theories that will come into play in their teaching performances. Well, I think that's all, right? I think I have asked all of you here already. So the title of my talk today is Global Englishes, What Really Matters? I think the answer is that each and every one of you who are actually practicing teachers now in Thailand and in Myanmar, you are what really matters. What really matters. I mean, you know, in order to really learn from the theories out there and then to make smart uses of the theories to suit your educational conditions or contingencies. I think that is all I have to say for today. I hope what I have been talking about should be of your service. And I thank Dean Akarapon and then Rajabhat Buriram once again for giving me this opportunity to learn from your wonderful ideas. I think you know, some of you have very good ideas about you know, this profession we call teaching. And thank you again. Thank you very much.
Yes, and that is the insightful talk by our invited speaker. And he has a very, very clear explanation about world Englishes, English as a lingua franca, English in ELF, current research trends, ELF, and research in the classroom from theories to practice. Yes, that is very insightful talk indeed, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the end of the webinar, Global Englishes, What Really Matters, okay, by our invited speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Saksit Saengboon from School of Language and Communication, National Institute of Development Administration, or NIDA, yes, and organized by English Language Teaching Program, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Buriram Rajabhat University. Yes, now the Dean is with us, so may I call up on Associate Professor Dr. Akarapon Nirmaihom, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and also the Chair of Ph.D. program, Buriram Rajabhat University, Thailand, to deliver a thankful message to the invited speaker. Please, Professor.
So before giving a big thanks to our invited speaker today, I just would like to tell you something behind the scene. All right. Before having Professor Saksit, not easy to get him with us today. So my first thanks, I would like to forward my big thanks to Associate Professor Dr. Supakorn Pujaransin from Thammasat University. Because this is the course for summer semester. So it is a seminar in World Englishes. I keep asking Ajahn Dr. Supakorn, who is the best in Thailand that is going to deliver the English test. He said that I think I'm very certain this professor is the best in Thailand. Who is that?
No.
I not know Ajahn Saksit in person. This is highly recommended by Ajahn Supakorn Pujaransin. So I really thank you, Ajahn Supakorn, very much for allowing us to have Ajahn Saksit with us today. Today is the first time for Ajahn Saksit to be with us,
yes.
but I'm very certain that not last time for sure.
Oh, okay.
I think all of you agree with me that his English is very beautiful and his English accent is perfect, very smoothly. Yeah, when his speech delivered very smoothly. I think everybody happy and agree with me. ใช่ไหมอาจารย์วิภาพร What's the new name given by อาจารย์ศักดิ์สิทธิ์ Professor Saksit? The new
I'm
name.
sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
That's a beautiful name. Yeah, thank you so much. Ajahn Saksit, please be informed that this is the first batch of PhD student in the ELT. Now we are
well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
A very good start. A very good start for you.
We
a very
think so.
good start. Yeah,
and now we are having the second batch, and I would like to let you know the eligible candidates for the second batch. Now there are 14 candidates from 3 countries. One from 3 students from Thailand, 1 from Vietnam, and 1 from Myanmar, and 9 from China.
Wow.
Yes, in total 14 for the second batch. So regarding this, and I keep telling you because we are planning to invite you once again and again for helping us. Yes, carry a very insightful webinar like today. Please spare your invaluable time to come and deliver a very informative speech like this, and we quite certain that our program can be carried out effectively from the first batch onwards. We highly hope so. And once,
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Last but not least, on behalf of Buriram Rajabhat University, I just sent a message to my president that we are going to finish the webinar, and I told her that I cannot be with her until the end of the meeting because I have to take care of my students and also the guest speaker. She said, "Oh, go," and just inform me whatever you got from your webinar. So she just informed our webinar today, and also she would like to send forward her thankful message to Professor Saksit as well. So on behalf of Buriram Rajabhat University and also my faculty, I am as the dean. And my program, I am as the chair of this program. I would like to express our sincere thanks to Professor Saksit very so much for his kindness and to accept our invitation, and we highly hope to have him with us again and again. At this time, maybe online, but after the situation of COVID getting better, and we would like to sincerely invite him to be with us in person at Buriram Rajabhat University campus sooner or later. Thank you very so much, sir. So
well, thank you very much.
So I would like to invite all of you, my students, please join me to give him a big round of applause. ขอบคุณท่านอาจารย์นะครับท่านรักษาสุขภาพนะครับ สุดยอดมาก
ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you so much, Professor.
ขอบคุณครับ
สุดยอด
สวัสดีครับ
อาจารย์บรรยายดีมากเลยครับทุกคน
ขอบพระคุณ ขอบพระคุณ
สุดยอดเลยเป็นต้นแบบให้หลายๆคน
ผู้อาวุโสอายุ60ดีใจครับขอบคุณ
โอ้สุดยอดเลยสุดยอดเลยคุ้มค่ามากนะครับ เราไม่ต้องไปเปิดตำราเล่มใหญ่ๆนะแต่ฟังวันนี้เป็นการเรียนทางลัดที่สุดยอดมากท่านอาจารย์ยังไงไปเยี่ยมน้องๆ
ได้ครับเดี๋ยวหาโอกาสกันครับขอบพระคุณครับสวัสดี
ขอบคุณนะครับเทคแคร์นะครับรักษาสุขภาพครับ
I wish you all the best of luck and much success, okay, in your PhD journey here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please stay healthy and be safe. Thank you. See you next time. ขอบคุณครับสวัสดีครับขอบคุณน้องศิริศักดิ์ MC ด้วยนะขอบคุณครับขอบคุณทุกคนด้วยนะครับขอบคุณครับสวัสดีครับ